welcome to my channel. Today's question is, why does it suck to be a velociraptor? As always, ask us your questions about dinosaurs and paleontology down below, and we will get around to answering them eventually. Also, please subscribe, because why not? Everyone thinks being a velociraptor is cool. Well, spoiler alert, it's not. So let's count down the reasons why it really sucked to be a velociraptor. In the movie Jurassic Park, the velociraptors are portrayed as vicious, cunning, deadly, and highly intelligent killing machines. They're terrifying predators who hunt in packs, use tools, and even develop strategies to fool their human prey. In short, they're everything that makes the original Jurassic Park so scary and memorable. However, reality was a bit different from this terrifying portrayal. First of all, movies lied to you. We're not giant nightmare lizards. We're basically angry chickens with teeth. Actually, we're kind of more like ostriches, but way meaner. Unlike the huge, terrifying predators that we are made out to be, we were actually quite small, measuring only about 6 feet long, including our tail. Our legs were more suited for running than hunting, and we didn't have feathers either. That means no cool raptor, no cool raptor, no cool raptor, no cool raptor, no cool raptor. That being said, we did have pretty big nasty teeth and sharp claws, which we used to eat mostly plants. Don't judge. We loved some good old fermented palm wood. Okay, let's get one thing straight. We weren't stupid, but we weren't exactly tactical geniuses either. There's this scene in Jurassic Park where the raptors figure out how to open doors by turning on electrical circuits. Well, that wasn't us. Sure, we were smart enough to learn tricks from other animals, steal food and use tools in emergencies, but we weren't opening doors just to see what was on the other side. Also, remember how we were supposed to be this highly organized group of hunters who worked together to bring down prey? Yeah, not true again. We didn't live in groups. We were solitary creatures just trying to survive. And when it came to hunting, we preferred to do it alone. Yes, we sometimes hunted together, but that was more out of necessity than anything else. See, we lived in an area where there wasn't much food, so we had to team up if we wanted to eat something other than fermented palm wood. But that doesn't mean we were some kind of wolf pack, because we sure as hell weren't bringing down a sauropod together. We each did our own thing and met up at night to share food. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, okay, you weren't super smart or super organized, but you still had those big claws and teeth, so it must have been pretty easy to catch prey, right? Wrong. Again, those claws were mainly for tripping, not for catching prey. Sure, we could dig them into the ground and make ourselves a little cave den, but that was more of a luxury than a defense mechanism. And as for those teeth, yes, they were perfect for munching on palm wood, but not so much for taking down a full-grown herbivore. Let's be honest here. We were basically the Jurassic version of beagles. We might have looked scary, but we couldn't hurt a fly, or at least a fully grown fly. We mostly ate insects and small fish, and sometimes we would snatch a baby dinosaur or two, but that was more of a last resort than a preferred meal. Okay, so maybe we weren't top of the food chain, but at least we were safe from predators, right? Nope. For a raptor, life was pretty dangerous. See, we lived in a time and place where there was a lot of meat eaters, and I mean a lot. The most famous one is, of course, the Tyrannosaurus rex, or T-Rex for short. And let's face it, being this close to the top predator meant that we were basically on the menu. T-Rex was so huge and powerful that it could easily crush us to death with its mighty jaws and teeth. It was also surprisingly fast, so even if we tried to run away, we wouldn't get far. Even smaller carnivores like the Albertosaurus and Dasbeltosaurus were a threat to us. Not only were they bigger and stronger than us, but they were also more aggressive and less picky about what they ate. That meant that if we crossed paths with one of these meat eaters, we were in trouble. Sure, we could try to run away, but if it wanted us bad enough, it would catch us. So we were basically sitting ducks waiting to be plucked by the sharpest beak or teeth in the neighborhood. And let's not forget that life as a velociraptor wasn't just dangerous, it was also lonely. We were solitary creatures and didn't form strong bonds with others of our species. Sure, we sometimes hung out with other raptors, but that was more out of convenience than anything else. We were basically the introverts of the dinosaur world, and that's not a good thing when you're at the bottom of the food chain. Being an introvert isn't bad in itself, but when you're a small, slow-moving dinosaur that gets hunted by some of the largest, most ferocious predators that ever lived, it's not exactly a good trait. Basically, being a raptor meant that we were always on the lookout for danger. We couldn't relax or lower our guard for even a second, because the next minute could bring a hungry T-Rex crashing down on us. But perhaps the worst part of being a velociraptor was that we were kind of stupid. Not in the sense that we lacked intelligence, but in the sense that we lacked common sense. We were basically the beagles of the dinosaur world. And that meant that we often found ourselves in dangerous situations that we didn't need to be in. Just think about it. If we were smarter, we would know better than to mess with animals that could easily kill us. We wouldn't have wandered into the territory of a hungry T-Rex or stayed out too late when a pack of wolves was hunting. We would have known when to run and when to hide, when to fight and when to flee. But alas, we were not that smart, and that often put us in danger. Basically, Being a velociraptor was like being an underdog in a boxing match. You might be small, quick, and have some fancy moves, but you're up against some seriously tough competition, and you know that you're outmatched. You can try to hold your own, swing a few punches, and maybe even land a hit or two, but ultimately you're at the mercy of your opponent. Now that's what it was like to be a velociraptor. Of course, in our defense, things weren't all bad. Being a raptor also had its perks, like being able to eat more than just fermented palm wood. Sure, we were mostly herbivores, but we weren't picky eaters. We happily munched on insects, small fish, and anything else that we could catch or steal. And we were perfectly adapted for this lifestyle. Our beaks and teeth were great for crushing hard shells and bones, and our strong legs and sharp claws helped us snatch and hold on to slippery prey. Plus, we were agile enough to dodge the attacks of most predators, and we could run faster than any human ever could. In fact, we were so fast that scientists estimate we could have reached speeds of up to 40 miles per hour. That meant that we could outrun almost any predator, except the mighty T-Rex, of course. But hey, at least we could run fast. Being a velociraptor was like living in a world where everyone thought you were a badass, but you knew you weren't. It was like having a reputation that was totally undeserved. You were basically the class clown who everyone laughed at, but secretly wished they were more like you were the underdog who everyone counted out, but who occasionally surprised them with a lucky punch. You were the beagle who managed to outsmart a lion once, but still ended up getting chased up a tree. It was a strange and confusing existence, but one that was somehow both hilarious and tragic. In short, being a velociraptor was like being the beagles of the dinosaur world. You might have looked cool and sounded scary, but in reality, you were just a chicken with teeth trying to survive in a world full of lions. And that's why it sucked to be a velociraptor. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. Ask us your questions about dinosaurs and paleontology down below, and we'll get around to answering them eventually. Also, please subscribe, because why not?